glad you could be here for this totally jam-packed episode of The Broadway Show. I'm Tamsin Fidel. Out this month on Netflix, it's Tick, Tick, Boom, directed by Lin-Manuel Miranda and starring Andrew Garfield. It's the film adaptation of Jonathan Larson's pre-Rent musical. Paul Wontorek talked to Andrew Garfield about what this role means to him.
Hello. Hi. Welcome. I'm Jonathan Larson.
This is a beautiful film and a beautiful performance. Congratulations. How does it feel to see the finished product, to see what you guys pulled off?
God, it's really overwhelming. I'm not going to lie. This one is very, very special to all of us, and I'm no exception. I feel so connected to this piece, so connected to John and to Lin and to this whole company, and I'm so proud of Lin. I'm so grateful to him that he had the courage to take this on and the kind of insanity to bring us all along for the ride. Like, I feel like Jonathan is smiling. I do feel that he, you know, he's happy with what we've done. He was always our North Star. And, you know, our attitude for the whole thing was to let him come through, let him lead us and guide us in a, you know, kind of mystical, spiritual way. And we felt him so strong. I feel him right now as we talk. You know, he was such a profound artist, and he changed musical theater forever, and he's created ripples in people. You know, there may not be a Lin-Manuel Miranda if it wasn't for John Larson.
What was the most fascinating thing about his story that you learned?
Yeah, well, it was like Lin was introducing me to a long-lost brother that I didn't know I had or existed. So one of the things I love about John is that he made everything an occasion. You see it in the Boho Day sequence in the film. It's like, you know, he wants to keep the party going, and like everything's an event. Like nothing is ordinary. It's all a celebration of this moment. And he was someone that I think had an acute awareness of the shortness of life. He was so sensitive, he's so tender, his heart was always on his sleeve, and his skin was translucent and so thin. He felt all of the wounds of the world so personally, and that was what enabled him to be the artist that he was and to write this kind of opus and this love letter to his community. You know, there were so many aspects that we needed to honor, and we definitely worked as hard as we could to do that. I work at the Moondance Diner. Check. 1 sec. Do we take reservations? No, we do not take. We're a diner.
There are so many beautiful, memorable moments and location shoots. Is there any specific days on set that really stand out for you?
Oh yeah, I mean, where I immediately go is the Delacorte in Central Park and singing Why at the piano solo. Live, you know, it was really important that was live. I wanted to get at least a few takes that were clean and live and raw and vulnerable, because it was a really important emotional crossroads for John, where he's trying to figure out how to move through this terrible moment of loss and devastation and grief. And of course, he figures it out at the piano. He figures it out with a song, and a tender one at that. So that one, you know, the magic of that night. And the second take, we got it.
What do you feel when you see the actual footage of Jonathan? There's some great video of him actually performing Tick, Tick, Boom. And I know you recreate some of those moments, but when you see the footage of him, what are the emotions?
It's really moving. It's deeply overwhelming to think that I get to have a spot in the attempt to honor such an incredible artist, someone who is so profoundly life-changing for musical theater and for so many other musical theater artists, Lin included. You know, to feel like I have a chance to honor that person and to give him more life. Yeah, to quote Tony Kushner, that is the most profound gift that I get to be a part of.
And as we mentioned, this is Hamilton creator Lin-Manuel Miranda's directorial debut. Paul also caught up with Lin.
I love that you chose Tick, Tick, Boom for your first feature film as a director. Obviously, you have a lot of opportunities coming your way, and it's really meaningful to know that you chose something that is so special to you.
Yeah, well, Rosa Stevens said to Jonathan, write what you know. And if I know anything, it's that Jonathan Larson paved the way for me to have a life in this business. In the Heights and Hamilton don't exist without Rent being the trailblazing force that it is, with bringing contemporary music to the Broadway stage, with bringing the most diverse cast I'd ever seen to a Broadway stage. All of the lessons from Rent are things that are theses that I advanced in my work, because that was the show that made me feel like I could write a musical one day.
It's also a great opportunity to tell more of the story of Jonathan, because, the original show obviously was based on his performance. And now we could sort of just take it even farther towards sort of biopic land a little bit, right?
Yeah, and first of all, Jonathan Larson had the audacity to write a biomusical when he was 29 years old. Who does that? The answer, of course, is that he did hear a ticking clock. He did spend his 20s writing a musical no one wanted to produce. And I think that show really came out of his frustration with where he was in his life, in his career. It was his way of processing why he was doing what he was doing. I think he needed to write this show to clear space for Rent, to let go of the bitterness that came with no one making Superbia. And as a result, we have a snapshot of this artist as a young man, and it's a self-portrait.
I moved to New York City in 1990, so I really appreciated the detail you captured. There's a scene on Jonathan Larson's rooftop, and you see the Hudson River, and I was like, yes, that is the exact view of the Hudson River you would see from that street. So I really appreciated that detail.
Yeah, we had to CGI out a lot of buildings that exist now that didn't exist then, particularly with that skyline. The Jersey skyline has changed dramatically, I was sad to learn. And that there's so many things you don't realize because we just live in the city and we don't see how it's changed around us. But finding those streets that look unchanged. We were so lucky that the pool that Jonathan used to swim in has been untouched by time and is still there. And he has lyrical references to things that are still in that pool. The tiled red and green stripes at the bottom. That song only makes sense if you film it on location. So there were so many weird gifts from Jonathan over the course of making this film.
There are so many Broadway stars, Broadway songwriters, Broadway producers in this movie. It was so exciting to watch that. How important was it to you to sort of bring the whole community into this movie?
Yeah, a lot of the things that people consider Broadway cameos, I didn't consider cameos. I know how good theater actors are, and I want to work with them. So of course I'm gonna hire Laura Benanti to be in a focus group scene, because she's gonna make whatever we wrote 50 times funnier, and think of 50 things we haven't thought of. But to the point of the Sunday sequence, which I will try to talk about without spoilers, that's Jonathan's homage to Sondheim Sunday in the Park with George. And John only ever heard it with himself singing alone, maybe Roger Bart singing back up behind him. But that's it. There's like a two-man band. And I have the opportunity as the filmmaker to create a choir every bit as lush as Sondheim's Sunday. So who do I put there except Jonathan Larson's dream choir? And I was really inspired by like those cheesy posters you see sometimes where it's like Amy Winehouse sitting next to James Dean, sitting next to Marilyn Monroe. And I wanted John to have this galaxy brain moment where it's not just the legends that he grew up loving and people from shows that he watched growing up, but also glimpses of future shows that I know were influenced by Jonathan Larson. One is mine, one is Janine Tesori show, and even future collaborators of Jonathan that the 1990 John hasn't met yet. But they get to be in the Sunday sequence. And so it was so exciting to basically build a choir so loud that Jonathan can hear it wherever he is right now.